Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar. One for the weather warnings, as we have got a yellow warning for rain issued for this evening and overnight, as we are seeing this small scale low pressure system skirt along the south coast. Now it has got some real severe winds associated with it, but luckily they're going to be missing England and are going to be impacting some of the channel lines in northern France. For England though, we've got some very heavy rain overnight tonight, as you can see on the live radar at the moment. Some real bright colours moving in, and there is of course a risk of flash flooding. That's why I've got those warnings in force. So have a look at the latest for that over the coming hours from the latest UKV, and of course we'll be able to have a look at the latest on the cold weather that is now arriving through the weekend into next week. Initially we've got easterly winds, bitterly cold easterly winds arriving. The depth of the cold has been upgraded in the past 24 hours, and it does mean the temperatures could hardly get above freezing come Monday or Tuesday, even during the peak hours of the day. So ice days are possible, and of course there is the risk of snow showers. That has been upgraded as well, but still don't think it's going to be anything too disruptive or significant at this stage. The longer term though holds even more for cold potential. It is looking likely now we see a big Greenland high developing, with north or northeasterly winds pushing in, even some showing a flat easterly moving in. And again, the longer term continues to upgrade, not only in terms of the depth of cold, but in terms of the likelihood as well. The majority of Ensemble members are showing snow-worthy air, proper wintry air moving in, and some are showing beasts from the east depths of cold. It is still a minority, but it is increasing, or it has increased since yesterday. Some of these runs down to minus 15 degrees at 850 HPA. That is proper historic levels of cold. Again, falling in early January to mid-January with the peak time of the winter. So it could be, specify could be, a perfect storm for snow and cold weather, but still a long way to go for that Greenland high developing, but confidence is increasing as the days go by. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. Now, if you do start on the live radar, you can see the low pressure system moving in at the moment. It's bringing some very heavy rain across the south coast at the moment, and it is just about starting to nudge into London now, a little bit behind there on the live radar, but it is now moving into London, and you can see some real bright colours associated with it, and that is some real torrential rain. Again, flash flooding is likely in places, and as I said, we've got a weather warning issued. Further southwards, we haven't got as much rain across the Channel Line as northern France, but this is where we're going to see the most severe winds. So yes, we're seeing the heaviest rain, but luckily we're not seeing potentially 70, 80 or even 90 mile per hour gusts that are associated with the centre of the low, this sort of back edge hook that is developing here. And again, it is a small scale system, but it is, as I said, packing a real punch as it moves through. Further northwards, dry conditions are moving in as the high pressure is slowly moving in, but this low is just slipped under, and that is why we're still seeing rain through this evening. Now the temperatures this afternoon, a bit chillier further northwards, but still generally around average. But as I've said over the past few videos, the temperatures are just on a downwards trend. It's 8-9 degrees today, maybe 10 degrees at best. And come Monday, it is looking like it's not going to get much above freezing in many areas. And if you look at the latest weather warnings, you can see we've got this widespread rain warning issued for southwest England, all the way through southern England, up towards East Anglia, even the East Midlands. It's from midday today until 3 AM tomorrow. Another spell of heavy rain falling onto saturated ground may lead to further flooding and travel disruption. As I said, it's been updated this morning and moved its extent further northwards. The likelihoods have also been increased, so it is low likelihood but medium impact. So yeah, pretty severe this system. Again, if it upgraded even more, could even see an amber warning issued. 10 to 20 millimeters, likely through 6 hours, maybe 30 to 40 millimeters in some areas. And again, this is most likely over a higher ground and more likely across central southern England. Impacts are more likely due to the very wet ground conditions, saturation of the ground at the moment, and of course there could be some very strong winds, but we are expecting the strongest winds with this system, to be out in the channel. So if you do have a look at the latest UKV now, you can see the rain moving in this afternoon, really heavy as it does. It does lose its intensity as it spreads further inland, but still gives quite widespread on and off rain for many through the rest of the evening into the early hours of Friday. Eventually it clears, and as we head into Friday, things are turning drier. Yes, a few showers near the coasts, but for most, it is a drier day. Still, though, quite a bit of trapped cloud, and those temperatures, as I said, are sliding on the downwards trend as well. As we head into Saturday, the wind direction is starting to shift to more of a northerly, or even just about veering easterly as the high pressure is moving in. Another cold, but still reasonably dry day. Into Sunday, things are turning even more easterly. Still not too many showers around, but the coldest air is starting to move in, and by Monday into Tuesday, the very cold air is in. You see more showers starting to turn to snow further inland, and into Monday there is the risk of a few snow showers down the east coast, but at this stage, not expecting anything too major. Monday afternoon, snow showers starting to move in further southwards. Again, not looking too intense, but definitely more snow showers here than we were showing yesterday. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Other runs have more intensity. UKV looks like it's on the lower end of intensity here for showers. So we'll just have to wait and see the next couple of days. And then into Tuesday, it is another bitterly cold day with those easterly winds moving in. And the real way you can see the depth of the cold is look at those upper air temperatures. A pool of minus 10 to minus 11 degrees at 850 HP is now moving in. That's upgrading quite substantially. Now, it is a small pool of air. It's only going to move through in about a day or two. So no sustained bitterly cold easterly. But for a time, it is going to be absolutely frigid out there for the temperatures slowly rise by Wednesday, Thursday as the high pressure topples. But that is an anticipation of the high pressure moving back towards Greenland in around 8 or 9 days' time, where the floodgates could open to even more colder Arctic air. And of course, that Arctic air could even contain more winteriness as well. Now, if you look at the max temperatures over the coming days, again, you can see this afternoon 7 to 9 degrees, so around average for most. Into tomorrow, temperatures are slightly cooler, more around the 5 to 7 degree mark. So freshening up, definitely. Still not a crazy cold, average to maybe slightly below average. Into Saturday, though, colder air properly starts to arrive, freezing further northwards and westwards with clearer skies, and by the afternoon, only 4 or 5 degrees for most. And then by Sunday, frost further westwards, again under the clearer skies, but even getting towards freezing further eastwards, we've got more cloud and stronger winds. Sunday afternoon, only 2 to 5 degrees, so well below average as a proper cold air arrives. And then look what happens as we head into Monday. Overnight frost widely where we see clearer skies. Again, this will change depending on the cloud levels, which will be up and down over the coming runs, so we'll just have to wait again another couple of days to pinpoint those overnight temperatures, but it's roughly going to be below freezing. And then look at that Monday afternoon, widely around 1 or 2 degrees, maybe a 3 or 4 at best. So ice days are possible for many and many areas. Maybe not quite a technical ice day, but only 1 or 2 degrees. And that's likely to continue into Tuesday. And look at that 3 a.m. on Tuesday. Pretty much everyone is below freezing as we see this bitterly cold easterly wind arrive. As I said, though, over the past few videos, this could just be the start of the warm-up for the main event as we head in towards the middle of the month. We'll be able to see that on this latest GFS run. Now you can see the easterly wind starting to arrive this weekend. By around Saturday into Sunday, it veers northeasterly and then flat easterly as we head into Monday and Tuesday, and that's where we could see snow showers move through. Again, UKV is a little bit on the low end of the intensity of those snow showers, but we will have to wait and see the next couple of days to see how it does resolve. Definitely is, though, looking more likely than it was a couple of days ago. Eventually, though, the high pressure topples. All runs have the high pressure toppling, but still keeping us cold as we head towards the end of the week. Upper air temperatures rising slightly, but the surface temperatures still below average, still pretty cold and very cold, potentially overnight, with frost developing widely under the higher pressure system. But as we progress towards sort of the 11th, 12th, the high pressure ridges towards Greenland. It's not quite as clear cut here from the GFS as it's been over the last few runs. GFS mixing in this little low pressure system to our southwest, which could complicate things in the mid-range, but the longer range, the northeasterly wind arrives, and it is pretty much a perfect storm for colder weather. Look at that. Those blues moving in from the northeast, proper cold, low pressure moving in from Scandinavia. It is bitterly cold. The minus 10 isotherms moving in, and it's absolutely frigid all the way to 384 hours. Low pressure running up from the south. Could see major snow. Severe conditions possible if this run came off. Pretty much the last sort of 10 GFS runs have been very, very similar. Bitterly cold and potentially very snowy in that medium to longer range period. And again, it's not just a blast of cold air lasting a couple of days, it's sustained. It's a week, maybe even longer, of bitterly cold conditions and snowy conditions as well. If you do look at that day 10 period onwards with the colder air, you can see the colder air eventually gets in around 10 days time, and it stays, and you see the -10 isotherm creeps in and eventually dominates us as we head into the extended range. The -10 covering the whole of the British Isles. I think the last time that happened is the beast from the east, really. So it is frigid out there, absolutely freezing. Look at the temperature deviation. We are all 10 to 12 degrees below average. And again, if we look at the UK, the United Kingdom view, those 2 meter temperatures, this is, we're looking here at the middle of the afternoon, not above freezing, widely sort of 0 to -2, and overnight temperatures -5 to -15. Absolutely freezing. If this came off, it would be a historic period of cold weather. It'd be one where you'll look at in years to come, remembering that. Similar to the beast me, stuff like that. Again, who knows if it will be as disruptive, but simply the synoptics of this and the temperatures we're seeing associated with this at this stage could be severe indeed. Again, there's no major point actually if I look at sort of snow depth at this stage, but if we do have a look at it, you can see there's lots of snow in the east where snow showers would likely be packing in, and of course there'll be other small scale systems amplifying the snow as well. So yeah, GFS, another extreme run, and I say, again, another extreme run, but this perhaps could be the reality in around a week to 10 days' time. If you compare it to the GM, and again, it's no surprise, it is very similar. Again, easterly winds arriving by the weekend into early next week, even stronger easterlies than the GFS had. Again, this would probably have some more wind chillness associated with it. Eventually, the high pressure topples and moves up towards Greenland, and then we open the floodgates to easterly winds initially. A bitterly cold easterly wind nonetheless, and then the northeasterlies arrive. So again, GM doing it slightly differently than GFS, gets to the same end point, but perhaps in an even more severe fashion. Again, if we put on the upper air temperatures, run back to a week's time, high pressure moving up to our northeast. Look at that, bitterly cold easterly winds, again the -10 isotherm consuming us, and then look at day 10. Look at the block of cold air to our northeast. Absolutely ridiculous. The depth of cold towards Scandinavia, towards Russia, towards Svalbard, moving our way. You follow those isobars. Look at the 850 HP streamline showing you where the air mass is moving, all moving southwards straight towards Europe. Again, temperature deviation, look at the depth of cold to our northeast. It is ridiculous, the synoptics on these charts. And again, it's not unusual to see a couple of these sort of runs every winter from these models, but we're seeing this every day, pretty much every run, and it's consistent, the evolution with this between the models. Again, I can't stress this enough, there is the risk here of a really severe historic spell if these runs came off. It's ridiculous, some of these air masses that are being pushed in here. Now, if you compare it to the ECWF, see what that has to say today. Again, the easterly winds moving in, pretty cold, and again, just a bit of a warm-up, a starter for potentially the main event. Very cold, ice stays potentially for a couple of days, and again, risk of snow showers, but nothing too disruptive. High pressure moves to our northeast, and again, we open the floodgates to northeasterlies. Again, not quite as clear cut, similar to the GFS, with low pressure taking a little bit of time to clear through, but nonetheless, it is moving through. The cold air is moving in, just not quite as severe, as quickly as the other runs, and you can see again, bitterly cold air to our northeast, ready to be pulled in. So you can see the UK still below average, still well below average, still cold enough for snow, but just not quite pulled in the absolute bitterly cold air yet, but likely would in the coming hours. If we do have a look at the ensembles, again, they are pretty ridiculous. The big change we have seen in the last 24 hours or so is more of those runs down towards the -10 to -15 region. Yes, there's maybe 5 to 10 here, including the operational GFS, but definitely an increase since yesterday. So that means potentially more amplification and more colder air flooding out of the Arctic. You can see it is very cold the next week. As we get into the weekend, really cold temperatures coming in. You can see where that cold pool moves through there, Monday into Tuesday, where the temperatures just dip a few degrees. But regardless, it is going to be pretty frigid, and there is the risk of some snow showers, but I'm not expecting anything too major in the next week. Then we see the rise in upper air temperatures, generally to average, but it's still going to be cold with an inversion taking place at the surface, i.e. the temperatures at the surface are not going to change all too much, while the upper air temperatures do shift, and then in the longer range, look, a massive drop-off. Yes, some runs keeping us around average, or some not quite as cold, but the majority do take us towards some real frigid levels, and precipitation increasing as low pressure moves in, bringing the risk of increased snow. To beat temperatures, look at that drop-off. It is looking likely from around Saturday we might not get above 5 degrees widely for a number of weeks. Through large portions of December, the overnight lows were higher than 5 degrees. The daytime highs might not be above 5 degrees here for a number of weeks. You see, by the 11th, 12th of January, might just touch 5 or 6. But that is going to be the mildest point here for a couple of weeks. So, yeah, very cold. Again, the ensembles are probably overdoing it slightly. It's probably actually going to be a little bit colder than this, especially even early next week. The UKV is already colder than what these ensemble members are showing. So yeah, perhaps for a prolonged cold spell, perhaps with some severe conditions mixed within it. The dew point's another indicator of that, widely towards freezing or below freezing, meaning pretty much beyond Saturday, most precipitation falling at the sky will fall as a wintry flavour. Again, it's difficult to say exactly if it will be snow or not, but it is looking extremely cold, cold enough for snow widely. And then if we look at those new snowlet spikes, again, not looking at anything too crazy, but just the number of small spikes indicates the snow conducive air. Again, it's way too far out to be pinpointing any systems or any sort of disturbances that could bring snow. But again, longer range around that 10th to 20th of January point, that is where eyes are peeled for more severe snowier conditions. And then, of course, we need cross-model consensus, and we continue to have that with the ECMWF. Perhaps even more confidence here of very cold conditions in the longer term. Pretty much exactly the same through the next week. And then in the longer range, yes, perhaps slightly different in terms of spread from some of the runs, but very, very similar. Widely down towards the -5 to -10 area as we head to around the 13th to 18th of January. Some holding up for longer, some going milder, but again, we can expect that in the longer range. So, the biggest changes from yesterday really are perhaps increased confidence, of course, we're getting closer to the event, and the depth of cold is subtly increasing, not only for the easterly wind coming this weekend, but perhaps even for that Greenland high developing in about a week or two's time. It is looking incredibly interesting at the moment. Again, if you are looking forward to snow, wintry weather, if you are a fan of cold weather, it's looking real potential now that we could be heading towards the most severe cold spell since the beast from the east. Again, it's impossible to say if it will be to that extent or even top that, which would be incredibly difficult. But again, this is falling in early to middle of January, so they're always going to have the advantage of a cold spell in late February, early March. We will just have to see exactly how it does evolve. But it is, still pretty ridiculous, and I'm still pretty surprised that we are seeing these sort of runs appearing. It's slowly trended this way over the last week or two, and yet it is looking like we could be heading for a very cold January indeed. So make sure you wrap up warm over the next week or two. Make sure you keep up to date with the weather warnings from the Met Office. I suspect there will be numerous warnings in the next couple of weeks, and of course keep up to date with the videos as I'll have the latest on all the trends and all the changes, and of course all the shorter range details when we get to the point where we could see severe temperatures and snow, of course, as well. As I said, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.